In 2021, Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 3 was a bold step up toward that goal. Now, in mid-2025, the all-new Galaxy Z Fold7 takes the idea much further. It's dramatically thinner, lighter and more powerful, but also much more expensive. In this in-depth comparison, we'll explore every aspect of those two devices, from build and design to screens, cameras, performance, battery life and software. So, buckle up! The original Z Fold 3 has a robust book-style design with glass on both sides, Gorilla Glass Victus, and an aluminum frame. The Fold 3 measured about 6.4mm thick when it was open and weighed about 271 grams. A pretty hefty slab for a smartphone. It also supported the SPEN stylus in a rugged SPEN Fold Edition case and had IPX8 water resistance but no dust rating. In practice, that meant that the Fold 3s felt solid but quite thick in the pocket, like a miniature diary that you were always carrying around. In contrast, the Z Fold7 is an absolute slimming champion, only 4.2mm thick when it's open and 215 grams. Samsung managed a about 34% thinner profile and about 20% weight reduction, which you can notice instantly. It now uses an Armor aluminum frame and for the first time on a foldable an IP48 rating, which is water and dust resistant. Both front and back panels got upgrades. The cover screen is protected by Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 and the back by Gorilla Glass Victus 2, making the Fold 7 even tougher than the Z Fold 3. The trade-off, the Z Fold 7 no longer supports the S Pen. Samsung quietly dropped the stylus support to keep the phone ultra slim. So, if you love doodling on the Fold 3 screen, you might miss that. Overall though, the Z Fold 7's design is a huge evolution. It feels more like a sleek high-end phone that just so happens to fold. Samsung's foldables have always had stunning screens, and the Fold 7 takes it even further. On the inside, the Z Fold 3 had a 7.6-inch Super AMOLED panel with a 120Hz refresh rate and up to 1200 nits peak brightness. The Z Fold7 expands to an 8.0-inch dynamic AMOLED display with 120Hz HDR support and up to 2600 nits peak brightness, more than double than the Z Fold 3's brightness. Under the hood, the Z Fold7 packs Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy built on 3nm versus the Snapdragon 888 built on 5nm in the Fold 3. In everyday terms, that means blazing speed for anything you do. Apps, games, even heavyweight emulation run smoothly. Samsung claims a roughly plus 38% CPU boost and a 26% GPU boost over the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy. In practice, that means whether you're playing Android games, Baldur's Gate, Asphalt 9, whatever, or flipping through dozens of tabs, you won't notice a stutter. Both phones start with 12GB of RAM, but the Fold 7 adds a 16GB option for the 1TB model, whereas the Fold 3 only went up to 12GB. Storage is 256, 512 or 1TB on the Fold 7, whereas the Fold 3 had 256 or 512GB. Despite the raw power, both phones have surprisingly similar battery tech. Each uses a 4400 mAh dual-cell LiPo pack. The Fold 7 does gain a little on the charging front, 15 watts wireless versus 11 watts, whereas the same 25 watts are wired. But the headline is just the same capacity. Samsung finally gave the Fold 7 a flagship camera setup. The Fold 3 had a modest triple 12MP rear array featuring a 12MP wide, 12MP telephoto at 2 times and a 12MP ultrawide camera. The Fold 7 blows past that. It has a 200MP wide-angle main camera, which is the same sensor as on the Galaxy S24 and S25 Ultra with optical image stabilization, a 12MP ultrawide camera, and a 10MP telephoto at 3 times optical zoom. In plain English, that means that the Fold 7 shoots far sharper, more detailed photos than the Fold 3 ever could. For the front and selfie cameras, it's a similar leap. The Fold 3 used a 4MP under-display camera, which looked clean but was soft and low res on the inner screen, plus a 10MP on the outer cover. The Fold 7 ditches the under-display camera in favor of a real 10MP punch-hole camera on the inner display and still a 10MP on the cover. So, selfies on the Z Fold 7 are vastly better now. In video, the Z Fold 7 also jumps ahead. It can record up to 8K 30 frames per second and 4K 60 frames per second with HDR, whereas the Fold 3 topped out at about 4K 30 frames per second. Nighttime and low light shooting on the Fold 7 improved thanks to that massive sensor and better processing. In short, the Z Fold7's camera system is finally on par with Samsung's best flagships. It finally feels like you don't need a second phone just for great. The big catch is the cost. The Z Fold 3 debuted at about €1,799 in 2021, whereas the Z Fold 7 is starting at €2,000 in 2025. That's a pretty hefty price tag. Many people even mention that because of the 2 in the front, it feels like a much bigger hurdle than the 1900 last year. So if you have a Fold 3 now, you'd be getting an insane upgrade, but it's hard to justify unless you truly need the absolute cutting edge. For new buyers, the Z Fold 7 clearly outclasses the Fold 3, but you're paying for it in spades. In any case, the Z Fold 7 shows that Samsung is closer than ever to that perfect balance of a phone and a tablet. Sleek when you want it, roomy when you need it. And that makes it an amazing device to watch, even if your wallet might watch verily. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!